MZTV.
For a few years now, I have talked to you about Daniel chapter 7. In Daniel chapter 7, the prophet sees 4 beasts rising from the sea. And I have told you that these 4 beasts are 4 religions. I talked about this in my Secrets in the Book of Daniel series, and I have told you about this in the Revelation series. My knowledge on this topic comes from a book by A. Enoch titled Concordance Studies in the Book of Daniel. You can read this book for yourself. It's available free online at concordant.org. Concordant.org. Just go through that. I think it's under the category of books. You'll find it. Concordant Studies in the Book of Daniel. A. Enoch made a compelling, intelligent case that the 4 beasts were the 4 major religions on the earth. The 4 beasts were a lioness, a she-bear, a leopardess, and a monstrous, that is, an indistinct beast. The characteristics in this prophecy of each beast fits perfectly, I might add, the 4 major religions on the earth, which are Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity. Christianity is the Western beast. One of the distinguishing characteristics of these beasts is that they go from east to west. Daniel says the eastern beast was a lioness. And if you look at the 4 main religions on a map, they do go from east to west, starting with Buddhism. That's the farthest east. It is in Asian countries. Then you get Hinduism, which is the region around India. Then you get Islam, which is the Middle East. And then you get Christianity, which is the West. One of the prophecies in that chapter of Daniel was that the Western beast would stamp out the other beasts. That we have been in a religious war with the Eastern religion, namely Islam, has been a topic of conversation in my studies for many years now. The rise of the Islamic State, the caliphate, the jihad, wanting to basically take over the world and make the world a giant Islamic state. This has been their stated goal. Why not? It's in their holy book that they are to kill the infidels. One of the characteristics of the leopardess, which is the beast representing Islam, is that it had, I believe, 4 wings. And when A. Enoch wrote his book, which was probably 60 years ago, even then, Islam was on the rise. The wings speak of speed and spread. And there was an incident, you'll probably remember it, on September 11th, 2001, where the jihad, in a violent way, came to our shores. It wasn't the first time, but it was a significant strike. Since then, the West has been at war with the war, at war against the war of the jihadists to take over the world. One of the chief characteristics of the monstrous from Daniel chapter 7 is that it has, quote, iron teeth and copper claws, unquote. And it is more ferocious than the other beasts. This ferocity is readily seen by the weapons of the West. Mechanized destruction. The United States is the #1 arms exporter in the world. We have lots of big guns. And we have sought to stamp out, which is the exact wording of Daniel chapter 7, stamp out the other beasts. That is, the religion of the West, which is Christianity, would battle with and defeat the religions of the East. And there's really only one religion out of the remaining 3 that is mobile, that is militant, and that wants to take over the world. That is the Islamic religion. Now I want to say something about the fulfillment of Scripture. I think when we speak of Scripture being fulfilled, we look for extremely high-profile, notable news events. But this is not necessarily how it happens. In fact, I would say that it's the opposite. There was a prophecy of the Messiah that Israel looked for centuries. There was a prophecy in Micah that the Messiah would come to Bethlehem. This prophecy was fulfilled, but it was fulfilled in such a quiet, non-newsworthy way that for 33 years after that Messiah was born, I'll say 30 years because Jesus Christ was 30 when he began his public ministry, there was no outward appearance, unless you were in the know, that prophecy had been fulfilled. That is the coming of the Messiah. And only few people were in the know. The shepherds, Anna and Simeon at Jesus' dedication on the 8th day. Of course, his mother and father. Other than that, until age 30, not so much. I talked to you yesterday about a sign in the heavens on September 23rd, 2017. There was also a sign in the heavens at the birth of the Messiah. It was quiet. It was not seen by many people. As far as I know, only 3 people noticed it. 3. And they came from the east to worship the King. 3 people. I contend to you today that the West, the Western beast of iron teeth and copper claws, has stamped out the ferocious leopardess, and this with not much fanfare. But I tell you, it has happened. Check off. another scripture fulfilled quietly and with not much fanfare. A modern day picture of Daniel chapter 7 being fulfilled. That is, the western beast with iron teeth and copper claws stamping out the eastern beast with 4 wings, is seen in the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. In that movie, Indiana Jones is confronted with some kind of ancient warrior, a samurai fighter. I believe this happens on the tarmac of an airport. Haven't seen the movie in years, but I'll never forget this scene where the samurai warrior, or whatever kind of warrior it was, came against Indiana Jones with a big sword. This is how the Islamicists fight generally, or they do hijack airplanes, I will say that. But their warfare is ordinarily with primitive weapons. In this scene, which many of you will remember. In fact, I will have my sister link that scene below. Watch it, because it illustrates the whole war between the Western religion, and the Eastern religion. Talk about saber rattling. Yeah, this warrior coming up against Indiana Jones makes a big show, rattling his saber. Very mean, very vicious. Makes a lot of noise. A lot of hubris. Indiana Jones, his response is brilliant. He rolls his eyes and shoots the guy. Thus endeth the war. Mechanized destruction. Iron teeth and copper claws, i.e., in this scene from the movie, a gun, comes against the saber-wielding madman from the east, and he's dead. I now share with you an article from BBC News. This is from February 7th, 2019. The title of this article is After the Caliphate. After the Caliphate? The subtitle is, Has IS been defeated? That is the Islamic State. Has the Islamic State been defeated? I don't remember hearing much about ISIS attacks. These used to be in the news practically every other week. A terrorist attack, a bombing, people running over people with their cars. Their warfare, the tools of their warfare are quite primitive. They can't even build their own airplanes. But what's happened? Why haven't we heard anything about it? Because it's been stamped out. But nobody's talking about it. Just as nobody talked about the birth of the Messiah. Because very few people noticed or cared to notice the sign. The article begins this way. President Donald Trump expects to announce soon that the United States and its partners have reclaimed the last pocket of territory in Syria controlled by the jihadist group Islamic State, IS, bringing a formal end to the caliphate it proclaimed in 2014. IS once controlled 88,000 square kilometers of territory, stretching from western Syria to eastern Iraq, imposed its brutal rule on almost 8 million people, and generated billions of dollars in revenue from oil, extortion, robbery, and kidnapping. Now, between 1,000 and 1,500 militants are believed to be left in a 50 square mile area in the middle Euphrates River Valley near Syria's border with Iraq, which is under attack by fighters from the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces Alliance. I'm going to show you now a map of how the area under the Islamic State control has shrunk. Hopefully I have a pen here in my card so I can point this out to you. Lacking that, I will use my pinky finger. Here comes the pinky finger. January 2015. January 2015. This is the land held in Iraq and in Syria by ISIS. Watch the car cam. January 2015. The next map is October 2016. Over here. Shrinking territory. The third map, July 2017. The forces have been decimated. The last map, February 2019. Where'd they go? Where did they go? What happened? The West stamped down the East. Daniel chapter 7, I believe, has been quietly and quite uncelebratedly defeated. The East has been defeated by the mechanized power, the iron teeth, and the copper claws, to quote the prophet Daniel word for word. The West, with this warfare, has defeated the leopardess as prophesied. And this is an important prophecy fulfilled of a rising Western Christian power that will eliminate its adversaries and will itself control the world. It does so not only by iron teeth and copper claws, that is mechanized destruction, but by the threat of mechanized destruction. I'm going to show you another chart here of the coalition strikes against Iraq and Syria. These are the U.S.-led coalition strikes that have, it appears, silenced the lunatic on the tarmac at the airport. Took out the gun, shot it, dead. Each little missile icon on this chart represents 100 strikes. Each missile icon represents 100 strikes. This chart over here is U.S.-led coalition strikes against Syria, 18,826 strikes. This is what is known as the utilization of iron teeth and copper claws, stamping out a mobile militant religion, just like Daniel said would happen in the 7th chapter of his prophecy. The chart on the right is U.S.-led coalition strikes against Iraq, of which there were 13,535. Good job, Indiana. What do we make of this? What we make of it is that Scripture is being fulfilled in front of our very eyes.